it right over here set a small double bottom pattern, and Bitcoin is beautifully going to the target that we talked about in the last video. And I believe still again that the price is going to move here further to the upside. Now there are some bearish scenarios which I will talk about in this video, but so far I don't see any big warning signs to be bearish on the price. Now this sideways action was kind of annoying, to be honest, because generally when you have an outbreak like this, you don't see the price action just going sideways in this kind of sideways channel like this. But hey, the price action, you know, it sometimes changes, and this may as well be because it was weekend, and generally when it's weekend you do not see a significant outbreak, and this could be the reason why we saw this kind of boring price action. But yeah, so far I don't see any big warning signs that this pump is going to stop. It might go a little bit sideways, might go a little bit down, but I still think that Bitcoin is going to hit high levels in the coming days. And you as well can see that Bitcoin is currently topping out at the 78.6 level on the Fibonacci tool. If you extend it all the way from over here, this top before this crash to the downside, and this bottom over here, and yeah, you could see that the Bitcoin price is currently finding resistance on this level. It is well topped out at the 70.5 level, but it managed over here to pump further to the upside. If Bitcoin can manage to break this level and pump again here to the upside and maybe get like a 4-hourly close above this level, I think that Bitcoin is ready to move to about 12,000 US dollars, and then it would line up as well beautifully with this previous high over here. And at that point you might as well see Bitcoin go sideways again right over here, get a little bit of resistance before it will break again further to the upside, and at that point I think that this pump might finally slow down and we might see some longer sideways action for a few weeks. But yeah, so far I do believe that Bitcoin is going to move to about 13,000 US dollars in the coming few weeks, maybe even the coming few days. But so far this chart looks very, very bullish. Now, one very, very bearish sign that I'm right now watching is that there's a very small CMA futures gap. As I stated in the last video, the Bitcoin price pumped while it was weekend, so this was going to cause Bitcoin to have a CMA futures gap. Now, is this a very, very big deal? Will we see the Bitcoin price just reverting to the downside tomorrow or maybe the day after? Well, I don't really believe so, because if we look at the last pump, you can see as well a very, very large CMA futures gap, and this one hasn't filled yet. We did actually see the price coming back down here to almost fill it, but so far this gap is still open, so we might actually see a very similar thing where we see a CMA futures gap over here that might not get filled for many, many weeks, and we might actually see the price going to higher levels and then maybe coming back to the downside over here, retesting this upwards trend line, and then we might as well see the CMA futures gap filled or maybe almost filled, very similarly to what we saw right over here. So yeah, I don't believe that this is any reason to be very bearish on the price. Now it might, you know, still come down in the next few days and still fill it, but I think that the probability of that happening is very, very small, because we have seen quite a strong and impulsive bounce from this upwards trend line, which generally means that Bitcoin is about to go to a new high level. But I certainly don't want to make any predictions on the CMA futures gap. I don't really care, to be honest, if it gets filled tomorrow or if it gets filled in a few months. This is currently not the most important chart that I'm watching. The much more important chart that I'm watching over here is this channel, and I've talked about this before, but as you can see, Bitcoin continuously over here moves around inside this channel. It bounces to the upside and to the downside, and you can currently see that Bitcoin got a very nice impulsive bounce from this upwards trend line, which is again indicating that hey, Bitcoin has found decent support on this trend line and is potentially about to set a new high and go towards this upwards trend line, which is currently laying around 12,800 US dollars, and we might actually see the price briefly breaking over here above this channel, very similarly to what we saw right over here, before the price gets again a correction back to the downside. And at that point we might even be looking at the price reaching 13,500 US dollar around the end of this month. And this is so far absolutely beautifully playing out as I actually predicted as well inside the VP channel. I beautifully managed to put in a long right over here right before this major move to the upside that is currently sitting on a very, very nice profit. And I as well got a message today from a VP member that made an absolutely 77,000 US dollar profit on a long as well. He as well managed to get into a long position right before this major pump to the upside. 77,000 US dollar is like a 3-year salary. So it's absolutely crazy to get messages like this. And again, I post all of my trades inside the VP channel, and you exactly get an overview on when I trade, what indicators I'm watching, what levels I'm watching, and you as well get price updates throughout the day. So very, very much worth joining if you want to get more information about how I trade the markets and you want to receive extra analysis. So shout out to this member. I know that you're watching, and I shout out as well to any other VP member that is currently making some very, very nice profits on, for instance, a long, maybe even a short. Of course, it's all up to you how you trade the market. But yeah, these kind of messages, they are absolutely beautiful. And if you want to join as well, check out the link in the description. Now let's look over here at the dollar index. As you guys know, this is a very, very important chart for Bitcoin. This is basically how strong the dollar is. And if this chart moves to the upside, Bitcoin generally get a correction to the downside. And if this chart moves to the downside, Bitcoin gets a pump to the upside. What you can see over here is that the dollar index is struggling to move further to the upside. It has trouble to find support. It as well broke under this support trend line, indicating that potentially the trend is about to continue further to the downside, which would be very, very bullish for Bitcoin. And this is a very, very long chart. This is right over here, 2011, and this is 2018. So this is a long-term chart, and this is as well a long-term support trend line that is currently broken. You can as well see that the dollar index over here had a move to the upside, but it flipped it into resistance, and it is currently getting a further continuation to the downside. So in terms of the dollar index, it looks like the dollar will continue to fall, which will make a very, very bullish and strong case for Bitcoin. And as well, if I look over here at the S&P 500, you can see that the S&P 500 had a crazy rally to the upside in the last few days. It beautifully managed to bounce from this upwards trend line. And I believe that the S&P 500 is about to touch this resistance again in the coming few days. And as you guys know, Bitcoin and the stock market are very, very correlated. So if the stock market manages to break out of this channel and break it over here to the upside, we might as well see Bitcoin breaking out of this upwards channel as well. So I'm definitely watching over here what the stock market is about to do. It is currently moving very, very strongly to the upside. So I believe there is quite a decent chance that we might actually see the stock market breaking above this trend line, flipping it into support over here, and then getting a very, very strong and parabolic move to the upside, which is what again would be very, very bullish for Bitcoin, and as well would line up with the fact that it appears that the dollar is continuing to decline and decline in value. Now, something that isn't looking too bullish are altcoins. As you guys know, in the last few videos, I said that altcoins look very, very bearish. It looks like the Bitcoin dominance has bottomed out, and you can see this absolutely beautifully playing out. Look at this Bitcoin compared to Ethereum. Yeah, you can very beautifully see the difference. You can see over here, Bitcoin moved above this previous high over here, and Ethereum hasn't even broken above the previous high right over here. You can see that Ethereum is getting a much slower and weaker pump to the upside compared to Bitcoin, because as you guys know, it appears that the Bitcoin dominance is currently bottoming out, which means that in terms of Bitcoin value, altcoins will lose value. So this is one of the reasons why I'm right now staying away from altcoins, and I just want to see the Bitcoin dominance over here breaking to the upside, potentially going towards maybe like the 70%, then setting some divergences before I potentially want to get back into some altcoins. Now again, I don't believe that altcoins will lose value in US dollar value, but only in Bitcoin value. So compared to Bitcoin, I believe that altcoins will pump slower to the upside. But this might take a few months or a few weeks to play out, but currently I'm definitely staying away from altcoins, and I'm only focusing on Bitcoin. So yeah, this was the end of the video. What I'm currently watching is Bitcoin going to about $12,800 US, which would be the top of the channel in the coming few weeks, probably as well at the end of this month. And I'm as well watching over here the US dollar index. If this gets a further correction to the downside, then I believe this would make a very, very bullish case for Bitcoin. And if the S&P 500 as well breaks as well above this resistance trend line, I believe that we're going to be looking at the stock market moving to some absolutely crazy high levels, which as well would be very, very bullish for Bitcoin. So everything is beautifully playing out, as I have talked about in the last few videos. Now, if you like this video, or you like the channel, or you like all of my videos, then show your support by pressing the like button on this video. And of course, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. And of course, I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.